Hey guys, I want to say shout out to my friend Mary. I feel bad for you, but I'm not sure when she actually bought it. You know, the peak was um, 261. Maybe she bought it at 140. I'm not sure, but the last month has been brutal. I mean, hang on one sec. So if you own 100 shares and the price dropped $20, you're down 2 grand. This right now would actually be a buy signal for me, even though I said I don't like Target personally because of all the theft and the poor financial conditions of the country right now. The savings rate was 3.5% in July. I'm not sure what last month's was yet, but in October all the student loan payments start back up. So that's an extra $300 or $400 on average, and people are already spending more money than they have. That's why the credit card. Um, that's why the credit card debt is an all-time high. Student loan payments is an all-time high. Everyone is paying an all-time high for car loans. I mean, a couple of years ago, car loans used to be 3 to 4 years. Now they're 7 to 9 years, and maybe even longer than that because some of these F-150s are 100 grand now, and 35% of that is just pure profit for the salesman. Um, but yeah, I heard on the news the other day that they're closing more stores, and it's because of the theft. Um, they're closing WalMarts around the country. They're closing grocery stores around the country. They're closing Targets around the country. Um, and it's because of this defund the police bullshit. Um, you got 30 or 50 people walk in a store and just stuff their bags and walk out, and they do nothing about it. And but you can buy the whole company today for $50 billion, and the P is 15. I like a 15 and better than a 5. 15 is a 7.5% return. A 20 PE is a 5% return, um, and most of that's probably going to be the dividend, um, which probably is going to get cut. They have a lot of debt. They have 18. They have $18 billion in debt, I believe. Um, but yeah, they probably lost $3 billion and just due to theft. I mean, the revenues is actually higher than it was the year before, where they made $7 billion. I mean, if you can buy the whole company for 49, let's just say 50 billion. Well, let's say 49 because it's easier. Uh, um, let's say they make 7 billion next year in earnings. Well, 7 times 7 is 49. So you would actually get your money back in 7 years instead of 15 years, because this thing, dropped from 260 down to 100, basically. So it basically, more than 100% drop. Now, if you bought at 260, you would need a 200% gain just to get your money to break even. So those people are probably waiting a while. But if you bought here, when it dropped another 20 points, I would double down. I would go all in. I mean, I hate to say it, but I hate to see you take a loss. And I think in 10 years, I think it will, probably be 350 by then. I don't know, but at this point, I would double down. Even though they got the stores closing, even though people are robbing them blind, even though they're locking up every little thing, I don't even. Who knows? They might be locking up toothbrushes next. And the other reason I didn't like Target was Target is not the low cost provider. Walmart is. Dollar General is. Family Dollar. When things get tight like people are right now, when they don't even have enough money to pay for groceries, or they don't have enough money to put gas in their car to get to work, when you're paying $20 or $30 for a McDonald's meal, the half the time they mess your order up, and they have an attitude about giving you one pack of ketchup. They say it's in the bag, but it ain't in the bag. That you ask for a straw, they say it's in the bag, it ain't in the bag. You ask for no cheese, they put cheese on it. But yet everyone wants $20 an hour when they can't even get the fucking order right, and they got a nasty attitude. There's a lot of, probably 99% of the people I've met at fast food are hard workers, and they got excellent attitudes. But there are a few that are not the sharpest knife in the drawer. This was just, I don't really care what these guru articles are, because, but anyway, for food for thought, they got a fair value at 227. Their theory is that the revenue was 100 billion, and it's trading, and you could buy the whole company for 50. So, in their opinion, it should be worth 100 billion, not 50 billion. Maybe even more. But look at the cash. Out of that 50 billion, 3 billion is cash. So that's something to take a note of. But they almost got 20 billion in debt. So I mean, the company is valued today at 50 billion or 49 something billion, and they got another 20 billion in debt. The earnings per share were $7.28, which is really good. I mean, if the company is selling for $100 a share and you get almost $10 a share profit, that's a PE of 10, really. Get your money back in 10 years, or I said I didn't like it, and I gave the reasons why. But in Mary's particular situation, um, I would start doubling down. And to be honest with you, you might have to triple down, because what if it gets to 85? What if it gets to 80? What if it gets to 75? What are you going to do? So I would maybe buy at 100, maybe not 106, maybe put a buy at 101 or something, 101.50. Um, Pick up 20 shares, put another buy at 75 or 74, pick up another 20 shares or 25 shares, something like that, to lower your average buy price, because to think about momentum is, it's kind of like what goes up continues to go up, what goes down continues to go down. So I don't know if there are any big holders, and see, this is the scary thing for me, is there's no insiders. If you look at the richest people in America, the Walton family, the founders of Walmart, are right up there. You got Alice Walton, and I think Bill Walton was the founder. I think Alice was his wife, but then now you got the kids, and they're up there as top 10 richest families in the world. I mean, Vanguard owns everything, so them having 10%, BlackRock, they're a cutthroat hedge fund. They own 7%. Then you got the banks, and like I said, the banks are in trouble. Morgan Stanley, that's a bank. When here's the thing, guys. If you're sticking your money in a bank, you're getting almost zero interest. If you stick your bank in Bank of America, Wells Fargo, etc., you're getting almost nothing. But if you stick your money in like a 30-year Treasury or something, you're getting 4 or 5%. So why would people leave a large amount of money in the bank and get zero interest? Meanwhile, inflation's like 15%, probably 20% in some places, maybe even higher. Who knows? It might be 30%, and it's definitely far from 2. I can tell you that. Home prices have gone up 14% year over year. Some homes have gone up 40% in 2 years. Gas, I remember, was under $2 in Virginia when Trump was in office, and now it's $3.30 to $3.60. That's over $1 increase, almost $1.50 increase. Food has gone up probably at least 25%, and maybe even higher in some particular foods like eggs or something like that, meat. And people that are on a fixed income, you can't change. If you're paying rent and your rent goes up, there ain't much you can do about it. Especially if you're already in a low cost rent situation. I mean, you can live in your car, you live in a cardboard box, but people still have to have a place to live. But and it's supposed to be no more than 25% of your income, but people are paying in America probably 33%, sometimes 50% of their income into housing. Um, Food is probably, some families. I don't know how they do this, but some families live on $300 a month for food budget. I mean, I probably spend 1,000 or maybe more, but I eat out every day, and I tip good, and that kind of thing. I mean, I might tip 30%, sometimes 50%, maybe more, but um, food is a high, right up there. It might even be sometimes 20% of budgets, especially if you live in a fat family and everybody's fat and everybody's eating, everybody's, wants 15 or 20 donuts every day. I mean, just buying 2 donuts and a drink is like $10 now. I mean, that's crazy. Um, you used to be able to get a dozen glazed donut. I mean, a dozen regular glazed donuts for almost nothing, almost free. Um, Definitely less than 50 cents a donut. Um, but even for me, just as a single person, you're talking $20 or $30 a meal a lot of times. And a couple years ago, my budget was $20 a day, and only half of that was used for food. So, now you're talking. I don't even want to know what my daily expenditure is sometimes, because I know it's higher than it should be, and we're probably talking $100 a day sometimes. Um, and I'm guilty. One of the reasons I like Speedway and 7-Eleven, well, 7-Eleven owns Speedway, but one of the reasons I like that is, there could be a dollar store right next door, but if I got 5 minutes to get to work, and I need to run in the Speedway to get cigarettes or get some sodas or get some candy bars or something to keep me awake at work. I don't have time to go across the street and go to the dollar store. Plus, in the dollar store, there's one person in there, and there's usually 15 or 20 people in line. And the one that I happen to go to, you got to scan your if you pay by card, you got to scan your card 5 and 6 times before it actually takes it. So, unless you got cash, you're what should be a 2 or 3 minute trip into the dollar store to buy some snacks and soda turns into a 15 or 20 minute ordeal. And you went from being 5 minutes early to work to 15 minutes late. And so, to me, I like the 7-Eleven thing because it's a convenience thing. And I know I'm getting ripped off. I know I'm paying $2 for 16-ounce Mountain Dew. I'm paying $4 for 2 of them. I'm paying $2.50 for a candy bar. If you get cigarettes, you're paying $15 now. I mean, you're spending $30 just in the gas station, and that's not even when you get in gas. For me to fill my car up, got a Camry. It's $40, I think, somewhere around there, and that's the cheap gas. Um, They got 30% return on equity according to this. Their operating and profit margin according to this are very, very low, which is kind of scary. Because you can guarantee that the thieves are stealing probably 10% of their profit margin, right? You know. They got, this says $2 billion in cash. Out of $106, only $3.50 is cash. Well, yeah, they got $20 billion in debt. Their book value is $25. I don't know, guys. This is a tough situation, but if I was my friend, I would either, cut your losses. If you're only down 2,000, maybe you just take a 2,000 haircut and get into something else. But the other option would be double down, triple down, quadruple down, go all in. And if you're right, you're right. And you're wrong, you're wrong. And but I think eventually that this country will get it right. I think we're going to go back to law and order. I think, and when I go by the local Target here, it's always packed. I mean, middle class women love Target, and I would say upper middle class women love Target. The very bottom, the poorest Americans probably do not shop at Target that much unless they're going in there to steal. I see a couple bums outside begging for money sitting at the stop signs begging for money, and some of them need help, and then the other ones you see them get into a Range Rover, I don't know, a $200,000 car or $150,000 car. And they're sitting out there all day begging for money, laughing, because they're getting a couple $100 a day just holding a sign, doing nothing. If I give a homeless person some money, I'm actually going to either give them a job or give them food. I'm not going to give them money to buy food. I'm going to give them food, and or I'm going to give them a job. I mean, the drug epidemic in this country is so bad, we've almost killed a whole generation of people. And it's getting worse. And we're already got an aging population, so if all our young people are addicted to drugs and alcohol, and massive student loan debts, and massive credit card debt, massive car debt, massive home debt that they're going to be paying on their home for 100 years. They're going to be dead, and they're still going to owe. The bank's going to be asking their relatives to pay their loan because they couldn't pay it off. But the good thing about death is when you die, they can't take any more money from you. They may want your daughter or your son to pay the bill, but unless they were a cosigner, they're just shit out of luck. And that's another reason I don't like the banks is all these hedge funds and stuff, and all these companies like Zillow and Redfin and all. They were buying whole neighborhoods. They were paying $60,000 over asking price for every house on the block. I mean, the house might be $300. They're going to pay $360. What idiot would overpay $60,000 in a house? But if they know that they're going to somehow flip it for a 30 or 40% profit, yeah, that might make sense. But the problem now is they're stuck with all this extra inventory, and now they're underwater. So now they paid 360 for the house, but the house is actually only worth 200. So they're fucked, really. And they might go out of business. And the other people that might go out of business is some of the banks. Because guess what? The banks are the ones who gave them the loan. And when they're not able to pay principal and interest down on their debt, when a third or however much of their investments are into underwater real estate, they're screwed. I mean, on paper, you think the banks would be making a killing because, and that was the whole reason why Buffett loved the banks so much, is because when interest rates are low, the banks don't make that much money, but the Bank of America was still making 20% profit, paying a 3% dividend, plus buying back 10% of their shares every year. And in theory, when the interest rates go up, and we go from basically 0 to 7%. Now the banks are making more money because the interest rates have gone up, so they're getting more interest on their loans. The problem is where the banks fell into trouble were not only were they underwater in the real estate, but they were also underwater in the bonds, because the bonds. If a bond is paying 4%, more people would want the 4% bond compared to the one that's yielding 1% or 2%. If they're both 30-year treasuries, which one would you want? Would you want a 4% return on your money, or would you want a 1 or 2% return? Obviously, the ones that are paying 4% are worth more. But the bond to me is kind of is I really don't like bonds, but because there's an inverse relationship between the price and the yield, and that kind of confuses me a little bit. And but at the end of the day, the banks were underwater on bonds by probably 50% underwater, and they were underwater 50% on the real estate, because if you have a loan at 2%, and all their loans are at 2%, or most of them were, and then you have some other loans at 7%, well, obviously to a bank, the 7% interest loans are worth more than the 2% ones, because they're making an extra 5% return on their money. But the problem is the banks basically create money, because when you deposit $100 into a bank, the banks in the USA only have to hold 10% in the bank. So that little vault gets tinier and tinier. I mean, you can't even hardly stick $1 million in there anymore. And you can't stick $1 million in $100 bills in there. You got to go to a regional bank for that. But I mean, it's pitiful how little cash and how little the banks actually have. So where's your money? What they bought treasuries with it. They bought mortgage-backed sausages. There's idiots that think the home values are going to just keep going up and going up and going up and going up. They don't learn from the lessons of tulip bulb mania. They don't learn from the lessons of Bitcoin mania. They don't learn from the lessons of Tesla mania. They don't learn from the lessons of GameStop mania and all these idiots that don't know what the fuck they're doing, and they're treating the stock market like a lottery, and a lot of these are day traders, and they don't know what a business is. They don't realize that there's no billionaires, day traders. There might have been one like Soros a long time ago, but there's very few billionaire day traders. The way you get wealthy is you find a good business and you stick with it for 20 or 30 years and reinvest the dividends. And when the price gets cut in half or is 75% off, 85% off, you double down, triple down, go all in, back the truck up, take the equity out of your house, borrow, get a loan, and stick it all in. And sorry, I've gone off on a tangent because the banks just irritate me. Because an average person in America might, even if they're making minimum wage, they might make $1 million in their lifetime from 18 to 65, but they don't keep it. They give 30% away at least to the bank just in interest, maybe 40%. So instead of $1 million, now they got 600,000. I've talked about before when you're buying a house for 500,000 and you're paying 7% interest, you're actually paying $1.2 million for that house. And the first couple years, the interest is front loaded. So if you're paying a $3,500 mortgage, only $500 is attacking the principal, and $3,000 a month is just going to interest. It would be better off just to take out a $10,000 loan at 20% and just pay down $10,000, because you're not even going to pay $10,000 down on that loan for at least 2 years, and you're probably going to end up paying closer to almost $200,000 in the first 2 years in interest. But basically, when you buy that $500,000 house, you're basically buying the bank a house first and a $250,000 house second, and then you get your house third, at the end of 30 years. But, they'll try to get you to refinance to keep you a slave to debt. They'll try to keep you enslaved for the rest of your life, just like the car companies do. The car dealerships, they keep you enslaved for 6 or 7 years, and maybe now it's 9 years. Then you get a new car, and then you're enslaved for another 9 years, and then you get that one traded in, you get another 9-year slavery. So you're in debt from cradle to the grave, and that's why everyone in the country is so damn broke, is because we live way beyond our means. We don't save, we don't invest. All we're doing is paying debt, the lowest interest payments to the banks, to the car dealerships, which again goes to the bank usually a banker that the loan goes through. I know when I had not this last one, but the one before, I know I had SunTrust was my bank that I had used. But it's just so sad. I mean, where people should never you can get a 30-year mortgage, but you have to pay it off in 15 years. You don't pay it off in 30 years. You pay it off in 15. And, like I said, the average size house 50 years ago for two parents working was 1,200 square feet. Um, and they paid 20% down on the house. They paid 20% down. You had two parents working. You may have had two kids. Now, we got 2,500 square feet houses, 3,000 square feet houses, single parents, one person working, and a lot of times that one person is working 2, 3, 4 jobs, just to make ends meet. And it's not just the poor and the lower middle class that's hurting. Even people that make 100,000 and 200,000 are paycheck to paycheck. And I can tell you that a lot of these big tech companies that laid off 20,000, workers at a time, they might be getting a $200,000 salary, and they're not going to be able to go find a replacement for that job very easily. It might take them years. They might have no income for years. Maybe they got a severance pay, or maybe they got some unemployment, but it'll be nowhere near the $200,000. And what people like to do, and what the real estate agents like to do, is they like to, let's say you go to the realtor and say, "Oh, I got a $250,000 budget. That's my max. That's the most I'm willing to pay." Well, what's the first home they show you? They show you a $300,000 house. They say, "Well, I can't meet everything in your budget. I can't check all your, it's got to have a pool. It's got to, have a yard. It has to have a garage. It has to have 4 bedrooms and 3 baths, and has to have a sunroom, and it has to have a jacuzzi, and we can't find all that in your price range. But here's a house that meets all your boxes, checks all your boxes, but you're going to be paying a little bit more for it." So what do people do? Well, this is my dream home, darling. This is it. This is the one. Honey, we can't afford it. Honey, this is too much. We can't afford it. This is the home I want. We need a bedroom for our in-laws to come and visit. We need we need a room for my mom and dad. We need one for your mom and dad. We need, we need to entertain and all this. When you buy a house, you do not give a shit. You do not give a fuck about your damn in-laws. They can go stay at the fucking hotel. They can go sleep in their car. They can go sleep in a tent. They can go sleep in a mobile home. Whatever the hell they want to do. They can go bring their mobile camper and sleep in the backyard and stick a porta potty out there. They're not paying your fucking mortgage for you every month. So I just don't agree with the premise that you need extra rooms for this and extra rooms for that. I mean, a long time ago, everyone slept in the same room. There was one big room. Everybody slept on the floor. 10, 15 people, whatever, and in some places of the world, they still do that today. You don't need a room for everybody, and you don't have to be the one that's entertaining every time. You don't have to have family Christmas at your house every year. You don't have to have Thanksgiving at your house every year. You could, I don't know, rent the church building for a night or something, or the Girl Scouts building, or something that's cheaper. But unless your in-laws are going to pay your mortgage every month for this extra expense, now if you're going to rent, if you got another opening or it's separated and maybe you want to Airbnb it or rent it out, whatever, that's fine. And then when your in-laws come, you can stop the Airbnb and let them, or just automatically book, a week or two, whatever, for whenever they're coming or around the holidays, and just reserve the room for them, and then Airbnb it out the rest of the time. But no, I think that's stupid that you're going to pay $100 or $150 or $200,000 more for a house just to have this extra bedroom and bathroom, so that your in-laws or whoever, your sister comes to visit once a year for 2 days, so she has a place to stay. She can sleep on the fucking couch, She don't need her own fucking room. But America's in trouble. I've said this, and I've been saying it for 3 years now. When the pandemic COVID hit, they shut down basically the whole economy for most of the year. They they took all the money in the world, the money supply, let's say it was 100, and then they added 40% to it. So instead of 100, they added 40%. So if you had any savings, your savings just got taxed 40% because of inflation. And now you can say maybe inflation wasn't 40%, but I tell you what, it's been pretty damn close. I said housing prices have gone up 40% in the last 2 years alone. Food prices at least 25%. Gas went from less than $2 to $3.60. I remember $5 gas prices under Obama. They had this idea that we're this Green New Deal shit, that they're all tree huggers and we love the environment, but what they don't tell you is, they just recently they want to mandate that every hot water heater is energy efficient by 2025, which would add an extra $5,000 to the average family, and you'd have to replace your hot water heater. And the alternative version is thousands of dollars cheaper. But again, you have the government trying to pick winners and losers. Like I said, Tesla was a loser, and the government subsidized them. Like I said, when they were about to go bankrupt, they lost money every single year for many years, and 1 year a couple years ago they finally quote unquote turned a profit, but they really didn't, because it was all subsidies. It was all government subsidies, where they said, all right, for every car you sell, you'll get a $10 tax rebate, or you can sell, because you were, a green energy, you can sell one of your green energy tax credits to this, evil coal company over here that's polluting the environment and killing the trees. But wind and solar, guys, is 3% of our energy needs. The U.S. was energy independent. We have more energy in our country than the rest of the world does. We were an energy exporter. We were fracking. We were drilling. Yeah, we want to keep the environment safe, but we want to keep those gas prices low, because when the gas prices are low, that means our truck drivers can afford to drive their trucks, and they can drive those goods and services to different parts of the country. And right now, you have truck drivers that are quitting because the gas prices are so high that they can't afford to drive their truck. It's bad when the gas is so high that you can't even afford to go to work. It's cheaper if you just stay home than if you drove to work. Most grocery stores, I said this before, has a 1 or 2% profit margin. When the gas goes from under $2 to $3.60 or $5, guess what? Their profit margin is now negative. Either that or they got to increase their prices. When they increase their prices, people start going there and stealing food, and when you steal food from Walmart and Target and stuff, like they're like, oh, we don't care if you steal food, but if you steal shoes or something, that's different. But if you're just hungry and just need some food to eat, okay, it's okay if you steal this Twinkie bar or the Snickers. But you got grocery stores out in rural areas that are closing down, and there's no alternative. There might be another 100 miles for the nearest town. So guess what happens is that small town dies. The real estate in that small town goes to shit. The land is basically worthless because there's no jobs there, there's no town, there's no people, there's no grocery store. I mean, how can you live somewhere and the nearest grocery store is 100 miles away? And sometimes, that one Walmart that just closed is the only thing in 100 miles. Now let me ask you a question. When the Walmart closes and there's no food for the people to eat in the town, there's no jobs for the people in the town because they all worked at Walmart, and is your home value going to keep going up 15% a year? Hell no, it's going to drop 50%. It's going to drop 75%. It's going to be worthless. And that's what these people don't realize. These people don't understand. Ask the people in Florida that got their house wiped away by the last hurricane. They might have had $1 million home, and it just got washed away in the sea. And guess what? You can't build there anymore. That land is no longer your. You might have that land, but you can't build on it. You might be able to put a lawn chair up there and have a day at the beach, but you can't build a new house there because your house just got washed away and your $1 million just got washed away in the ocean. And maybe you got flood insurance, maybe you don't. But if you don't have the exact insurance that destroys your home, maybe it wasn't the flood that killed it. Maybe it was electrical fire or something. Maybe a power line fell on your house or something and caught on fire, and this was before the wind came, and they're not paying for it. They're not reimbursing you for if you get the wrong insurance. I know an area that got flooded. All the houses were underwater. All the cars were underwater. All the cars and houses were worthless, and Nobody had flood insurance, and they were living in FEMA trailers for years. Those FEMA trailers are only supposed to be temporary, a couple months, and people are living in them 5, 6, 7, 10 years. But there's so many places in America now that the people cannot afford to live. You need workers. You need average workers to go work at McDonald's, to go work at the gas stations, and if you can't even get an apartment for less than $2,000 or $3,000 a month, and you know they can't afford to live there. And the rich people, they're not going to go work at Walmart. They're not going to go work at Wendy's or Dairy Queen. They're not going to pick up these jobs. So there's going to be no workers unless they just keep allowing people across the border. But then they would have to have a place for them to stay that is affordable. I mean, right now you got people living in tents, you got people living in cars, people living on the side of the road that actually have a full-time job, but they can't afford to pay rent, they can't afford to pay a mortgage, and they're just living on the side of the road, or they're camping in Walmart or parking lot or whatever. But I do not know what the percentage of people that, I mean, if I studied Target, I would know this, but I do not know the percentage of like the 1%. The top 1% in this country basically own, I don't know, 40% of the wealth in the country, and the top 10% own the 80% of the wealth in this country. And the middle class and the lower middle class and the poor own that like 20% maybe or less of the country's wealth, and I probably misquoted that somewhat, but you get the idea. But I don't know what percentage of people that go to Target are, say, upper middle class, and then what percentage are middle class, because the middle class are basically in poverty now. You know, you've taken the the lower middle class and put them into poverty. The people that are in poverty, they were already in poverty, and now they're even lower than poverty. And the upper middle class, a lot of them have gone from the upper middle class down to the middle class. But the people in the upper middle class and the top 1%, they own financial assets. They have multiple revenue streams coming in. You know, they might own 5 or 6 houses, and then they might have $2 or $3 million in stocks. You know, they might have a couple $1 million in bonds. They might have a couple $1 million in cash, and then they might have other investments. You know, maybe they got a painting, a Van Gogh painting, or some special coin that great granddad gave them, or Babe Ruth baseball card. Who knows? You know, but they have other financial assets that they have accumulated, and when they're, when inflation happens, that inflates all the financial assets, that inflates the stocks, that inflates the real estate, that inflates inflates everything. Inflates, that painting, that Van Gogh painting. It shouldn't. It shouldn't. It shouldn't go up 20% every year. It's not producing anything. You look at it. I mean, it could catch on fire. The wind or rain could destroy it. A burglar could come in there and steal it. But somehow it goes up 20% every year, 15% every year. That's a bubble to me. But some people have a lot more money than they could spend in 30 lifetimes. So, you know, they could buy racehorses, buy race cars, buy yachts after yachts, and buy airplanes and private jets and butlers and limos and all kinds of stuff. But the reason they can do that is because they have several revenue streams coming in. But most millionaires, I would say 80% of millionaires today are first generation millionaires. They didn't come from money. They were self-made. Most of them were poor, and most of them were either teachers or engineers in this country that just saved 15% of their income, put it in the S&P 500 index for 40 years, and boom, they ended up with a couple $1 million. I mean, it's not rocket science. And you know, as Dave Ramsey said, it's your fault. It's our fault. You know, $50 at age 18 a month, you know, or at least no more than $100, but I think $50 a month from 18 to 65 reinvested dividends gets you to a million or close to it. And even the poorest people in America that are making minimum wage can save $50 a month. And I mean, you cut out a cable bill, cut out a phone bill, cut out a dinner once a month. You know, when I was watching a stream Cheapskates, you know, the family went out to eat one time a year, and the guy paid in coins. So he would have like a bag of, and it was hilarious because he would take them to a buffet, and there would be like 5 people eating. He'd only try to pay for 2 buffets. You know, this guy was, and he brought like $30 in pennies or something, you know. But anyway, for I know I got off on a tangent. I've been talking for an hour now, but I would say I would start doubling down, tripling down on this, or just cut my losses. I mean, you're going to get your money back eventually, but it might be 10 years from now. I mean, if you buy at 100, and then buy again at 75 or 80, maybe 70. I like 100, 75, and 50. So I would have 3 orders here. I'd split whatever you have to invest or whatever. I would split it up between those 3. And maybe not even do the 100, and maybe just wait for the 75 and wait for the 50. But you got a dollar cost average, and that's what happened to me with BAK. You know, I was down probably 40%, and I doubled down, and now I'm down 40% again, and or almost near it. I mean, I could triple down and go all in, and maybe I'm right, or maybe I'll just lose everything. But it's a tough situation, but it's on you to decide what you would do. I would, you know, one option is you could take a $2,000 loss and just get out. You know, things have changed in your mind, you know, and you don't like it as much as you did. But if you're optimistic, if you think they're going to be paying down the debt, I think they're probably going to cut the dividend. They're probably going to start paying down the debt some and building up their cash position. For a company that's worth $50 billion that really should be worth $100 billion, with only $2 billion in cash is really, really low, if you ask me. Again, when Microsoft, when Bill Gates was, he made sure he could pay his employees all year long and keep operations going all year long, even if they had zero money coming in. And there's only very few companies that have stockpiles like that. Berkshire Hathaway's one, and Apple's the other one. They're the only companies that have hundreds of billions of dollars to pick up financial assets if there is a 50 or 75% drop in the market. One reason Target, I think, fell so much is, Vanguard shorting it. BlackRock shorting it. Well, Vanguard may not be shorting because a lot of their stuff is passive, so they don't actually but Bank of America, they got stock market people. Wells Fargo, they got investment bankers. All these companies are probably shorting it, even though they got a position in it. They're shorting the hell out of it. So the very owners of the company are basically trying to destroy it. And so this right here to me is very dangerous. I mean, who started Walmart? Where's the owners at? I don't know what happened with the owners. You got 14 sales and 11 buys. I mean, you got this guy panicking and selling $4 million worth. He was panicking again, sold $5 million. This is another guy, officer, sold $2 million. All these people are selling. Even the people there don't believe in the company. So, they're the insiders. So why would an outsider believe in it? But I do think this thing will recover at some point. I don't know when. I can guarantee you that we're going to have law and order in this country at some point, or this country is going to collapse and we're going to become a third world country, and we're not going to be free anymore. When the government tells you got to buy the GE washer, or you got to buy this particular product that's 200 or 300% more expensive than the nearest competitor, because of you got China and India burning coal like crazy. You got Russia selling China oil and gas for pennies on the dollar, and here we are. We're not drilling. We gave all our strategic reserves to communist China. We're the ones paying the bill for the rest of the world. So why would our government, why would our country intentionally try to destroy us? But back to the banks, banks create money because when you deposit $100, they only keep $10 in the bank, and the other $9 is or the other $90 out of 100, 10 goes in the bank, 10%. But the other 90 they loan out to, let's say, 9 other people for, let's say, 10% interest on average. Because they're getting some of their interest on these 20 and 30% interest credit cards. Um, But when they're not lending money because they think you can't pay the money back, they're not going to lend to you because they think you're a high risk. They think you're going to default on the loan, so they're not lending to you. So when the money is not being lent, the money is actually being destroyed. So when money that is created, when banks are creating debt and we've grown our economy through debt, but when that contracts, when that shrinks, wealth would be destroyed as well. And a lot of the wealth that's going to be destroyed is people that bought these $500,000-600,000 houses that are only worth $200,000, and they're going to be stuck paying that for the next 50 years of their life. Because at the end of 30 years, they're going to realize they can't pay it, and they need another 50 years or 30 years to pay it off. But when you sign up for a 30-year mortgage, you got to say in your mind that you're going to pay it off in 15. So you're not going to pay it. You're not going to pay it for 30 years. You're going to pay it off in 15. And really, people should be buying homes or buying sheds in the backyard or glorified tents or glamping or whatever you want for, and pay it off in 7 years. And then once you have a place to live, and once you had a while to build up some reserves, then you can go get your dream home. Then you can upgrade and get a standard house. But to be paying 50% of your income to a mortgage for the next 30 years of your life, I mean, what happens if you get sick? What happens if you get in a car wreck? What happens if your spouse or a family member needs help and has to come live with you, and that's a financial burden on you, or something happens to one of your children? We need to start saving more. We need to start investing or building up some kind of stockpile, so that whenever this crash happens, we can take advantage of it. Because everyone is already all in. A lot of people are already all in. A lot of the hedge funds, they are max margin. They put in a dollar and they borrowed 10. And so if the market crashes 50 or 60% or 75%, they're not going to be able to buy anything because they're already out of the game. They already got margin called and they had to sell, and they just took a loss because they had no more money to put any more money in. They had no more. The banks wouldn't loan to them anymore because they know they can't pay it back, and the banks are in trouble too. So they got to make sure they don't go underwater. But even though I don't like these statistics at all, I don't like the fact that there's no owner basically of this company. No one really gives a shit. They're just all institutional scumballs and slime balls and snakes and thieves. And then you got groups of individuals robbing them blind. When you go from $7 billion in profits to $3 billion, I would say you just lost $4 billion to defund the police. Defund the police just cost you $4 billion this year. And this dividend is probably going to get cut in half, so probably from 420s, 440s, probably going to go down to 2. And let's say they do make $4 profit, Probably two of that's going on the debt because they got $20 billion in debt. And guess what happens when interest rates go up? They can't borrow anymore. Or if they're going to borrow, all right, it's going to be 15%. All right, it's going to be 20%. It's going to be 10%. You're not borrowing at no damn 0% anymore. You're not borrowing at 2%. You're borrowing at 7. You're borrowing at 15. You're borrowing at 20. You're borrowing at 30%. If they're using a credit card. And a lot of these companies are using credit cards. Because they sure as hell can't use any cash. They only got $2 billion in cash. And if I can guarantee you, if the hedge funds see them dip below $2 billion in cash, these guys right here are going max short. They're probably already short, but they're probably going to be leveraged short if that happens. If they go below $2 billion cash. So my word, like I said, if you bought at 230 or 240 or 220, 125, maybe you buy here at this price. Maybe I would wait till 100 or maybe even below 100 or maybe just above 100, maybe like 101.50, and then buy again at 74, 76.50, and then again at 51.50 or something like that. And I would split it up between three buy offers. Let's say you got $9,000. You're going to buy 3,000 at 100. You're going to buy 3,000 at 75, and then you're going to buy 3,000 at 50. Or you could just wait until it falls to 50 and go ahead and stick 9,000 in at 50, or maybe it goes to 75. You put 4,500 at 75 and put 4,500 at 50. I don't like going exactly on the number, and I don't like slightly below. I like to do slightly above. That way your order is going to get filled. Because you don't want it to, say, go to $101 and your buy offer is at 99, and then next month it goes to 150, and you just lost a 50% profit just because you were $1 off. And plus it's psychological. People like round, even numbers. So if you put an odd number, you put a 101 and 1 penny or something, but yeah, I definitely think in the long run, I think this will probably be 360 in the next 10 years. So it's probably going to go from 260 to 360 in the next 10 years. So it's probably going to be up here somewhere in the next 10 years. But maybe in the short run, it might go down a little bit. But at some point, there's going to be a jump back. And if these people are shorting it, if there's a big buyer, let's say Warren Buffett comes in and buys $10 billion, or he might just buy the whole company. Warren Buffett can come in here and buy the whole company tomorrow, and then it will shoot right back up to 200 probably. Or maybe Apple buys them out. They got a couple $100 billion laying around. And then they could stick all the Apple phones in the Target stores. Well, this says they got 62 billion right here. 62 billion in cash. Let's see what Berkshire has. And this may not be accurate, but Berkshire's got 147 billion. Basically 150 billion. You know, I liked Berkshire when it was back at 170, below 200. It wasn't there very long, but there was when it was in this area right here, like 178. That was the time to be buying, where it was actually below book value. And the beautiful thing about Berkshire is they got 150 billion in cash. So like back here at this valuation, basically the company was worth basically their wholly owned companies, their Geico's, their See's Candy, their 20% stake into American Express, their 10% ownership. Sorry, I'm talking partially owned companies now, but no, the whole value of Berkshire back at this price was just their wholly owned companies. So basically, you were getting their partially owned companies for free. Their 20% and the other credit card company that does high net, American Express. They own 10% of Bank of America. They own 20% of Kraft Heinz. They own I don't know, maybe 10% of PNC Bank. Back at that time, they owned 10% of the 3 of the 4 biggest airlines in America. I can't remember which one they didn't own, but the 4 big airlines were Delta, American, United. I forgot the other one, but anyway, they own 10% of 3 of the 4 biggest airlines in the country. But Buffett panicked and sold, and I think he made a bad decision, because I do think in the future people are going to be traveling more instead of less. But that said, maybe this is a fair price. Maybe 340 is a fair price, but definitely down here was a fair price. This was below book value. This was just for the wholly owned companies, the Geicos, the Dairy Queens, the Fruit of the Looms, the See's Candy, the wholly owned companies, the railroad, and then the Occidentals and stuff like that. Those are partially owned, the Occidentals and Bank of America. But I do think it's overvalued here, maybe slightly, or maybe fair value. But I did not buy here because at the best case scenario, it was worth double, and I was buying companies that were 30xing or 10xing and 4xing, and so if you're buying companies that are 30x undervalued, why would you go for one that's only 1x? But this was 100% sure, and whereas I may not have been 100% sure on some of mine. But anyway, as far as Target goes, like I said, I would either do. It has to be your decision. But I would either take a $2,000 loss and just get out, sell it, say fuck it, fuck you. I'm going to stick that money somewhere else, and then I'm going to make that $2,000 back. Or you can wait till it drops to 100, do a buy. Put another buy at 50, put another buy at 25. But now 50 exactly, maybe 50 and 1 penny, or 50 and 51 pennies, or 51 and 1 penny, or something like that. Just in case the market does collapse 50%, 75%, it's going to be quick. And these quant computers, they can do like, I don't know, thousands and thousands, if not millions of trades a second, probably millions of trades a second. And they have basically unlimited funds. And they would be buying. If the market fell 75%, whoever has any cash in the world will be buying. And so it will not stay there very long. But if a company goes straight down, like it's, you're catching a falling knife, it's hard to know where the bottom is. So you got to say, all right, what if this happens? What if that happens? And maybe you don't do 3 equal slices. Maybe you do a 15% slice at 100. It goes to 75. You do a 25% slice, and then whatever's left over, I don't know what that is, but maybe a 50% slice at the bottom at 50. And who knows? Maybe they go bankrupt. But I think they will recover in the next 10 years. I do think they will probably be $360, if not $400, in the next 10 years. Not Berkshire, but Target. So even my friend who bought it in the 140s, I think will be okay. Or 125, or wherever you bought it at. I think you'll be okay. But I don't really like this. I don't like this rapid growth here, because it tells me that something's not right, and it's, it just basically goes parabolic from. I would much rather see something like this. That's slow and steady. That's a slow, steady, exponential curve, and eventually, this will be exponential. Because that's how money works. Their money just, the money compounding. If you look at a compound interest calculator, it starts off very, very slow at the bottom, very, very slow at the bottom for many, many years. You almost don't see nothing happening, and then there's just a slow and steady rise, and then at some point, it just goes exponential. And for wealth creation, the magic number is 100,000, where it starts to go exponential, kind of, and you start seeing a much, instead of 10 years to get your next 100,000, it's 2 years or 1 year. But this did not happen with Target. With Target, their graph is, and I hate graphs. I don't judge anything by graphs. But if you look at this, they should have been slower in these early years, and then still been like over here somewhere, and then like this, So, but it just goes straight up. It goes from 66 to 260. I mean, 6 times 5 is 30. So, if it shouldn't 5x from here to here. Is what I'm saying. It should have gone more, like Berkshire did if it was normal. Like this is abnormal right here. I mean, here is a bubble. This is a bubble. This is a bubblicious bubble up here at 260 right here. But that's not going to say that it's not going to get to 360 in the next 10 years. I do think it will, but it should have been more of an even path. I was going to look up something. I forgot what I was going to look up. Oh, I was going to look up Tesla. It's kind of funny. Kathy Wood said Tesla's going to 15 or 20,000, but yet she sold all her Tesla. I mean, look at this, guys. This right here is a bubble, a bubble issue. Can you imagine if you bought it at $1? Well, it really wasn't $1 because they done so many reverse splits and stuff that. But I know my sister's killing me now because I got her to sell probably 3/4 of her position around this point. And then so from $20 up to almost 400. Well, I don't know what that is, 20x maybe. So I cost her a lot of money, but when I told her to sell here, the PE was 1,000, which means it would take 1,000 years to get your money back. They had $500,000 in profit. And really it wasn't profit because they had gotten billions of dollars in government bailouts, government green energy stuff. Again, you got the government picking winners and losers, and then you have the government officials who are supposed to be honest people doing insider trading and a bunch of crooks on both sides that were buying. Let's say you're a senator and you know that Caterpillar is going to get this big government contract for the next 15 years worth $60 billion. Well, do you think Caterpillar stock's going to go up or down? So you can put all your money in one basket and you can't lose. If you're the lawmaker and you already know what the law is and the law is already passed and you know what company gets the contract, you can go all in and because you can't be wrong. The only way you could be wrong is if they say you were insider trading but now they just say, oh, I didn't know, or someone else handles my finances. I didn't know nothing about it, and they just lie their ass off, and a bunch of crooked cowards, and that's what I think of a lot of them. But anyone that if you're not making any money, if you're losing money every year, and you're still losing money up here, like this is a bubble. Went from 16 to almost 400, and like I said, during this time they weren't making any money. The only money they were making was government subsidies, and that was going away the next year. And guess who else was selling? In these last couple of years, the reason Elon Musk is the richest man in the world is because he sold $20 billion of his fortune because he knows this is a bubble. He knows this is a bubble right here. But yet people are still paying 70 times earnings. You're paying $245 today to earn $3.50 1 year from now. No, here's another way to think. For every $69.23 you invest today, 1 year from now you're going to have $1. So you're putting up $69 today to earn $1 1 year from now. Is that a good deal or a bad deal? It's stupid. What idiot would do that? You have to be the dumbest person in the world to do something like that. Who would pay $69 today to earn $1 1 year from now? It would take you 69 years to get your money back. 69 years. And it's actually going to take you longer than that because this is a bubble. It's going to come back down here somewhere. We're coming back to gravity. What goes up must come down. You know, the yin and yang. There's up and down. There's right and wrong. I mean, there's good. There's evil. There's right. There's wrong. This is a bubble. For every $69.23 you pay today, you get $1 1 year later. And the same thing is here. For every $245.84 you pay today, you're going to earn $3.55. Because this is basically 3 times what that is. Or 3.5 times, or whatever it is. But it's horrible. It's terrible. And look at them. Here it says near fair value. I mean that's hilarious. All right, now they do got $23 billion in cash. Okay, well that's one thing. But they're worth $780 billion. That is ridiculous. This company is almost worth $1 trillion. And just a couple years ago, here they were bankrupt. They were 1 or 2 days from bankruptcy. And like I said, they were making no money, even though it said they made $500,000. They didn't even make $1 million profit. They only made $500,000 profit back then. But what happened was it was all government subsidies. The government had subsidized them $10 billion or whatever it was. So they just got a blank check for $10 billion for being a solar company, an electric car company. But, you know, the reason I do not like Tesla is, number one, the auto market is a competitive market. There's nobody in the car industry that's going to get a 30% profit margin. Their profit margins are going to shrink. People are going to keep coming. They're going to keep coming. China's going to come. Japan's going to come. South Korea's going to come. Germany's going to come. France is going to come. England's going to come. The U.S. is going to come. Everyone's going to come and whittle away at whatever. If they have a 30 or 40% profit margin, it won't last for long. It might last a couple years, and then it's going to be cut to 10% or less. And they're going to keep coming until there ain't no margin left. Kind of like the supermarkets where their profit margin is 1 or 2%. And why anyone would want to go in the grocery business, I don't know, because who wants to go to work for a company that only has a 1% profit margin? That's stupid. You know, like I said, just the fluctuation in gas put you out of business. But one thing I know for sure, gas in the future will be worth more than it is today, because eventually that gas is going to start running out of the ground. And how do markets react? They especially with oil, it doesn't even have to be factual. It could be a fear. It could be an oil spill, and like, oh my gosh, all this oil, we just lost all this oil. And 200 years ago, they weren't even keeping oil in steel containers. They were keeping it in barrels because they thought any day now the oil was going to run out. So, the markets operate on fear and greed. And you have to train your mind to do the opposite of what everyone else is doing, because if you are just like a normal human and you panic when everyone else panics, and you are buying up here when everyone else is buying up here, you're not going to make any money in this world. At least in the stock market, you're not. You have to do the opposite of what everyone's doing. If everyone is up here, you got to be shorting it or stockpiling your money for waiting for the crash. And if everyone is, you could have been buying down here if you wanted to, if you really loved it. But up here, you're selling. You're probably selling here, selling there. Or at least on the downside, you're selling. Like, okay, let's see if maybe it's going to keep going up. But, all right, pull back. I'm going to sell half here and let less ride. All right, well, I'm going to sell the other half here. But buying is easy. Knowing when to sell, knowing when to rebuy and double down, and when to walk away. These are tough decisions, and imagine if this was all the money that your family had in the world, and you are in charge of it, and your kids have to live on this money for the rest of their lives. This is their this is going to be their money one day. And based on what decisions you make today or don't make, could be the difference in being very wealthy or just getting by. But it's hard to short something like this because it was almost a cult. It was a cult following. And a lot of hedge funds went bust because they were shorting this. But it was such a cult following. That's the reason why it went up, because everyone else was shorting it. The smart people with the smart money was shorting it when it was trading at 1,000 times earnings because they knew it was a bubble. But what happens in a short? When you're shorting it and then you got these idiots buying because they have no idea what fundamentals are. They're just day trade idiots and buying something that's trading at 1,000 times earnings. It was trading. I think they had only sold like 50,000 cars, and it was the market cap of it was bigger than all the other auto companies around the world combined, which is hilarious. There's no Tesla repair dealerships. I've already talked before in one video how the Sheetz gas station, for example, that one they got about maybe 7 or 8 Tesla charging stations in that one Sheetz, but that cost Sheetz at least $250,000, if not $300,000 a year to operate that. So you would have to have these charging stations all over the country, even in the rural areas, where it wouldn't be cost effective to do so, because if the population is 10 people, you got 2 farmers, and and you need a charging station there. Well, that that Sheets or whatever is going to lose $300,000 because those 10 people aren't going to spend $300,000 at Sheets. But the people that are going across country still need to stop somewhere to charge their car. But there would have to be infrastructure. There would have to be charging stations all over the country. There would have to be probably 50,000 charging stations all over this country. And not only that, there would have to be repair shops because right now there's nowhere to get your Tesla repaired at, as far as I know. I know people were basically watching YouTube videos and trying to repair their Tesla. But anyway, I've rambled on now for almost 2 hours, and you guys can make your own decision. Thanks for watching.